What the hell are you doing?
Sorry, I'm sorry. We thought you were someone else. Successful test.
Ghostbusters on the job. Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Harold Ramis as psychic phenomenon exterminators in one of the new movies we'll be reviewing this week, Ghostbusters. And joining me in the balcony is Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune.
And across the aisle from me, Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. In addition to Ghostbusters, we'll also be reviewing Beat Street, the latest breakdancing movie. Also a French comedy called Les Compères, about two men searching for a son who they both think is theirs. But first, Roger begins with their playing with fire.
It is now my duty to review one of the worst movies of this or any other year, a movie so bad that my best recommendation for this film is that it immediately be cut up and made into ukulele picks. The name of the movie is They're Playing with Fire, and it stars Sybil Danning, one of my favorite B-movie stars, in a ridiculous story about a college Shakespeare professor, that's Miss Danning, who seduces one of her students so she can involve him in a mysterious plot. Now watch how subtle and understated this seduction scene is. She's hired that student to varnish her yacht.
You think you'll have time to do the inside today?
I don't think. Maybe some other time.
Well, maybe you could do the one cabin only.
I can't be late for the gas station.
One cabin shouldn't take you long. Come on, I'll show you. See? It won't take you long to varnish in here.
Well, to do a good job, I need at least half a day.
Well, come on in. I'm not going to rape you.
Oh, no, Mrs. Stevens, I wasn't thinking that.
These two chairs need varnishing, too. How about them?
Yeah, I guess I have enough time to do these today.
All right, come on. Let's get them up on deck. Why are you so afraid of me?
I'm not.
You don't like me, do you?
Oh, no, I like you a lot.
Prove it.
How?
Kiss me. What was that? Here. Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Stevens. I didn't mean to...
I know. I know.
Oh, God, I really gotta go.
Don't talk. You'll spoil it.
Mrs. Stevens. Mrs. Stevens.
That's Eric Brown there with his Shakespeare professor. You may remember him from My Tutor, where Sylvia Crystal was his French teacher. He has an adventure in every single subject that he takes in school. The story of this movie involves an unbelievably complicated and unintentionally hilarious plot to cheat Sybil Danning's mother-in-law and grandmother-in-law out of the family fortune before a mysterious masked murderer can kill everybody and muzzle the family dog. Their Playing with Fire is a complete waste of time, especially Sybil Danning's time. She specializes in Hercules Unchained and Women in Chains movies, and they all look like Academy Award winners compared to this one.
It's pretty bad. The film tries to do two things. One, be one of these teenage sex films, rites of initiation, like that, and then it gets into really a Friday the 13th plot with a lot of really rough mayhem going on. I mean, you get an old grandmother shot in the back of the head, another woman shot in the back of the head, people cut up. It's quite violent. So you have these two films. They never... Neither get particularly excited. It's a mess.
I disagree with you that it's all that violent. I think they kind of missed a bet in that shot where the machete bounces off the neck of the dummy, you know, that's supposed to be the character. And another time when the guy...
baseball bat,
he comes
like
with
rubber.
a baseball bat, and it's obviously made out of cork.
Yeah.
And then the knife that bounces off the back of another victim. This is kind of a would-be violent movie. Not quite as violent
I was surprised to see the grandmother get shot in the back of the head.
That was a...
But I was more surprising was when they actually had a shot of the dog in chains or muzzled up a little bit. I mean, canine porno or something.
Watch
really
this movie
sick.
or we'll muzzle this dog.
Yeah, very bad. Coming up next at the movies, breakdancing straight from one of its birthplaces, the South Bronx. This film is Beat Street, a drama set in the South Bronx, one of the birthplaces of breakdancing, graffiti art, and record mixing. This film is as much a tour of those elements of what is called the hip-hop culture as it is a specific story about a couple of brothers trying to live out their dreams. One wants to be a dancer, the other a record spinner, and they both enjoy hanging out with their breakdancing friends and battling each other in dance-off. That's one of the few scenes where you see some breakdancing in a long shot. Too often, this film is a little too tight on the breakdancers. I wish there were more scenes like that one. The film, though, is more than wall-to-wall breakdancing. There's also the story of a Latino graffiti artist who is bugged by his father.
Tell your mother Pedro wants me to work late tonight, huh? Carmen needs to stay with us. We have no bed for her, you know that. Well, she can stay with me. You are not married to her. If I married her, she could stay with me?
She could stay in the place that you made for her. If you was a man.
I am a man. A man takes care of his own. A man has a job. He's not a criminal who goes around scrolling on the subways.
How come a man's what you say? I'm a graffiti writer. I'm an artist. I don't just throw up little tags all over the place. I make them trains beautiful. How come you won't even come see what I do?
Familiar story in any culture, fathers and sons having problems. Beat Street is sort of a South Bronx version of Saturday Night Fever, featuring the same struggling kids, same kind of difficult love story. I don't think it's quite as good as Saturday Night Fever because I didn't feel that the kids I was seeing were in as much real jeopardy as John Travolta and his friends, but at the same time, I did see the same drive to succeed, to be something more than others would have you be. You can see it in that boy there. In that way, Beat Street is more than just entertaining. It's very human and quite memorable, I think.
I had some problems with it, and in retrospect, I owe an apology to Breakin', the movie we reviewed a few weeks ago, because I think Breakin' had that breakthrough energy, the feeling of those dancers really expressing their joy that you got from Saturday Night Fever.
Good.
But not
and let the record show that I liked it.
Okay, but not as much from this film. This film seems to me to be sort of an updated version of the Gene Krupa story. You know, kid from the streets, makes it to the top, plays in Carnegie Hall. The goal here seems to be for these kids to turn into Broadway dancers and to put on shows on Christmas Eve at the Roxy nightclub. I don't think, if I were a street kid in the Bronx, that the Roxy would actually be the point that I would be aiming at. And I like the fact that in Breakin', the street kids on the street validate their own music right then and there with their joy and their humanity. Here, it seems like it's supposed to be a ladder to the Tonight Show or something.
Well, I think that kids would have that as a reasonable goal. It'd be like playing a professional sport. You want to play in the best stadium that you can play it in. So I think that makes sense. I also think it was quite sweet, a love story between one of the brothers and a girl there who's from a little more upscale environment. And I remember them walking through Central Park, and I felt the same thing as I felt with Travolta and his girlfriend in Saturday Night Fever. Kids, again, trying to cross the bridge from Brooklyn to Manhattan, and these kids trying to make it from the Bronx to Manhattan. I think it's a really, it's a common story, and I think it was beautifully told. So I do like the film. I wish more break dancing have been shot better in this
If
film.
there had been more breakdancing shot better, I would have given it a thumbs up. Next at the movies, Ghostbusters, sort of a paranormal pest control service.
Dana, can I talk to Dana?
No, Dana, only Sue.
What a lovely singing voice you
The
must
movie is named Ghostbusters, and it's a funny combination of two kinds of movies that usually don't work very well together. On the one hand, this is a big-budget special effects picture with lots of sensational, earth-shaking adventures in it. And on the other hand, it's a very funny movie to listen to because of the sly and understated dialogue. The characters in this movie say some very funny things. In this scene, Sigourney Weaver becomes a potential customer for the Ghostbusters when she realizes that her apartment has become inhabited by a strange form of psychic energy that likes its eggs sunny side up.
And then I slammed the refrigerator door and I left. That was 2 days ago, and I haven't been back to my apartment.
Generally, you don't see that kind of behavior in a major appliance. What do you think it was?
Well, if I knew what it was, I wouldn't be here.
Egon, what do you think?
She's telling the truth. At least she thinks she is.
Well, of course I'm telling the truth. Well, who would make up a story like that?
Some are people who just want attention. Others are just nutballs who come in off the street.
You know what it could be? Past life experience intruding on present time.
Could be race memory stored in the collective unconscious. I wouldn't rule out clairvoyance or telepathic contact either.
Sorry. I don't believe in any of those things.
Well, that's all right. I don't either. But there are some things we do, standard procedures in a case like this, which often bring us results.
Well, I could go to Hall of Records and check out the structural details in the building.
Tell you what, I'll take Miss Barrett back to her apartment and check her out. I'll go check out Miss Barrett's apartment. Okay?
I love that line about the major appliance.
Right.
The Ghostbusters there were Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Harold Ramis. And one of the best things about this movie is the low-key, cynical dialogue that they exchange in a scene like that. I love listening to this movie. They sound like a bunch of old college roommates who are all in on the same joke. And that National Lampoon, Second City, Saturday Night Live style dialogue works surprisingly well with the movie's big special effects scenes like this one, where the Ghostbusters approach a psychic whirlpool that threatens Manhattan.
She's a dog.
Usually when a movie has a lot of special effects, there's the danger that the characters will look like they're simply standing around posing in front of the special effects. Not in Ghostbusters. This is one of the slyest, wittiest big-budget movies I've seen in a long time, and the climactic scene where Manhattan is threatened by this really unexpected 20-story high monster has one of the funniest single shots I've ever seen, and I would tell you what that shot was, but it would spoil that moment of wonderful surprise, so my lips are sealed.
It comes out from another planet, I think, is basically the whole idea. The idea does. I think it's very funny, too, and I think you broke the film right into its two parts, the special effects story and this personal, whimsical dialogue between these guys, particularly led by Bill Murray. I like the second part better than the special effects stuff. I think it worked less well than you did. Murray, to me, is very funny. He's the leavening in this whole film, throwing these asides in constantly. This woman turns into a sort of a fire-breathing, lusty character, and he walks in and he says to her, that's a new look for you. You know, that's very, very funny stuff. And another critic, David Denby, New York Magazine, compared his role in this picture, quite properly, I thought, to W.C. Fields or Groucho Marx, who's always walking around their films saying, you know, winking at the audience. And Bill Murray provides that function here, and he does it beautifully. Well, it's a Bill Murray movie, and I loved it more than the special effects.
Okay, I love Bill Murray. What about Harold Ramis, who is not very well known? He's directed a couple of movies. This is his first big movie as an actor. He's the one who he's the wise guy. He's the one who always has the long explanation. And the deadpan way that he delivers that is great. Aykroyd plays a basic Aykroyd character. These three guys could go on, like the Marx Brothers, if necessary, and make 6 more movies. They only should.
The person will make it work. It'll be Bill Murray in Groucho's role. Coming up next at the movies, 2 men in search of a son who they both think is theirs. The film is Les Compères, about a woman who comes up with a clever way to find her missing son. She tells 2 old boyfriends that the missing boy is a son she had by them a long time ago. And so each one now has a reason to be searching for the boy. Their search leads them to a confrontation with a motorcycle gang.
Le kid. Wow.
Je peux te parler une seconde?
Voilà, c'est ta maman qui nous envoie.
Allons, on ne chahute pas. Tu veux voir quelque chose? J'ai dit on ne chahute pas.
Sérieux, mon garçon. Mange.
Kind of deadly. That was Pierre Richard eating his tie and Gerard Depardieu looking on. There are 2 different styles of comedy in this film. The slightly confused approach you could see there by Depardieu and the more broad slapstick approach by Richard. This film didn't do too much for me. Those styles just clashed with each other. I didn't laugh at the slapstick. And Depardieu, a fine actor in so many films, seemed very bored by what was going on, and so was I.
And so was I. This is basically just a French sitcom. This is kind of the level that you expect not in a movie where they should have thought it out and come up with something original, but totally predictable. In other words, well, what do you mean it's not your son?
Right.
Or, gee, let's pull out the pictures of our sons and show them to each other. Gee, it's the same guy. They haven't caught on for you know, that the kid has the same name, that the mother has the same name, that the kid is the same age. The audience is sitting there, you know, practically prompting the screen.
Okay, let me sum up. We don't like the premise. We think both comedy styles clash. There isn't anything I like about this picture.
I think that's a pretty good summing up. Gene, let's take a look at some of the other movies on the show this week. We both voted thumbs down, needless to say, on their Playing with Fire with Sybil Danny. I think we needed Aroma the Educated Skunk to help us with that one. But a split decision on Beat Street, the street dancing movie. Gene enjoyed the energy of its story about break dancers and graffiti artists. I kept waiting for it to really go over the top with a great dance sequence, but for me at least, it never did. 2 thumbs up for Ghostbusters, a really funny movie that combines great special effects with wonderfully sly dialogue, although Gene liked the dialogue better than the effects. We both think it's one of the summer's winners. And 2 thumbs down for Les Compères, the French movie about several would-be fathers looking for the same son. This was basically just a subtitled situation comedy. And so I guess Ghostbusters is the
one we both agree on, and I would say Beat Street. I think there's a real good story inside the dancing. So much for this week. Next time we'll be reviewing more big summertime movies, including Rhinestone with Sylvester Stallone and Dolly Parton, a comedy about a cab driver and a country singer. Also, The Pope of Greenwich Village, about a small-time hoodlum element in New York, and the comedy Top Secret, the first new film from the makers of Airplane. That's next time, and until then, we'll see you at the movies.